Ten minutes past 11 on a Wednesday morning. Captain Junior Mims eases his towboat away from the docks of Parker Towing Company in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The boat is the Rhett Parker. About a mile up the Black Warrior River, he swings the boat around to take on the tow. 10,000 tons of coal loaded into 6 barges. The deckhands work to lash together tow and boat. The destination, Mobile, 339 river miles away. It's no coincidence that many of the landmarks along the river take their name from the accidents they've caused. Places like North Star Wreck, Montgomery's Wreck. It's a treacherous river, narrow and crooked. What does it demand of the 6 men of the Rhett Parker? What will be their reward for paying this river the respect it asks of them? What is there about a river, a simple channel of water, that draws men to it to live their lives?
Unbelievably crooked. It covers every point on the compass.
Parker does have the strongest boats on this river, the best handling boats, best pushing backing boats, and they still have the best pilots.
Just about the same thing, day in and day out. Both is from Tuscaloosa to Barry, Mobile.
It takes not really a different breed, but it takes somewhat of a special individual to just walk off and leave their family for 20 days to be able to turn around and get right back in the swing of things again.
It's a way of life out here, really. It's not a job by no means. Single man, it's all right. Ain't got nothing else to do. Get in trouble if you're at home.
These 6 men, 2 pilots, 2 engineers, 2 deckhands, will work on the river 20 days before they are off for 10. 20 days on the river. Now that the tow is together, the next thing to be done is tear it apart. Oliver Lock in Tuscaloosa, the oldest lock on the waterway, is too narrow for a tow 3 barges wide. The crew will have to split up the tow, take 4 barges through the lock, and then come back for the other 2. It will take more than 2.5 hours to get the tow past this bottleneck. Up in the wheelhouse, there's been a change of watch, and a new pilot is behind the sticks. Engineers and pilots work 6 hours and are off 6 hours around the clock. Deckhands work whenever they're needed, regardless of the time. Even though it's just past 1 in the afternoon, the first watch pilot and engineer have gone to bed. They'll be back on duty at 6 p.m.
Okay, Bruce, somewhere out there.
Bobby Landau nudges the throttle just enough to let the Rhett Parker crawl into the lock. At 27 years of age, he understands what may be the most important characteristic for a pilot to have.
Patience. Patience is a good quality. You've got a lot of barge damage and boat damage that usually goes to being impatient. You know, that you just trying to make an extra mile or something.
Once in the lock, a huge gate swings shut behind the towboat. Because of the dam, the water upriver is higher than the water downriver. The lock acts as an elevator and lowers the tow to the next level. On the barges, the deckhands tie up to the wall of the lock to keep the towboat from moving around. Once the water in the lock is at the same level as the water below the dam, gates open on the opposite end of the lock. Oliver Lock is so small that a pilot has to swing the towboat sideways to make room for the gate to open. The Rhett Parker is a workhorse. Built in 1982, its 2 diesel engines work together to produce 2,100 horsepower. Clear of the lock, the crew strips the boat of its tow and ties up the barges. Now the boat goes back through the lock to pick up the 2 barges left behind. Then it's through the lock yet again. Out on the deck, it's hot, demanding, repetitive work. It's not the place to be if you're in a hurry. 4 hours after leaving the company dock, the Rhett Parker is again a 6-barge tow. The boat's about a mile downriver from where it started the trip. To get to Mobile, the Rhett Parker will travel down 3 rivers, the Black Warrior, the Tombigbee, and the Mobile.
Another little bar starting up there.
This section of the Black Warrior River just below Tuscaloosa is one of the most difficult to navigate because it is narrow and crooked. The boat averages about 3 miles an hour as it squeezes between the banks of the Black Warrior River. Past Carson's Bluff and around Clement's Bend. The 2 right-angled turns of Upper and Lower Ophelia Landing. Through the sharp horseshoe of the river marked by 12 Mile Rock. Around Robinson Bend. The shore moves past so slowly you think you might be able to walk to Mobile faster. Maybe so, but you couldn't carry 10,000 tons of coal in your pockets. Not all of the obstacles on the river are natural. Some are made by man. With the complications of current and sandbars and shoals, trying to get a towboat between the pillars of a bridge can be like trying to get a size 44 man into a size 42 jacket. The Rhett Parker passes under the I-59 bridge at Foster's at sunset, 17 miles into the trip. If time is the best teacher on this river, then Junior Mims may be the best student. He's pushed barges up and down this waterway longer than anyone else, 40 years. He knows the river as well as he knows his way home.
We're coming down on Millwood Landing.
What mile?
We're about 247. This place here has no name. I've never heard a name from Dupree's back there at the lower end of that rock bluff. Before we start making our left turn here to Millwood, I never did hear a name. You see Millwood as we get around this little turn. You got to know every crook and turn, every sandbar and then rocks, so that when you meet past tows, you'll know where to stop safely. I can get up at night and walk out, get a cup of coffee and walk out on the bank, and I can tell you where we're at before I come on watch. And you see, I don't ever have to look at a chart. Well, I should. But until you do know the bend behind you and the bend in front of you and your mileage, and you can look at the bank and tell where you are, you don't know the river. You might be able to get up and down it, but you don't actually know it.
Every turn, every rock of the river committed to memory. Even seemingly insignificant details have to be learned, like the location of hornets' nests.
From right around this point, there's 5 that you can see when the leaves are off the trees. I know about where they are. I probably can show them to you. You have to watch for things like that when you go to tie up in fog or too much current, you can't stop your tow. You send a deckhand out there to catch the line and right in one of them hornet nests, he's in trouble.
40 years up and down the river at a top speed of maybe 7 miles an hour. A lot can change in 40 years, but the memories remain.
Yeah, the good old days are past and gone. A lot of good people have done gone on. That's my life when I sing this song about back in the good days.
When I learned the river, we had a watchman that stood watch with you. And he would watch the chart for you. Tell you what the next bend was, what mileage. You just had one bar, had a little bitty river. Didn't have any horsepower, so you wasn't going fast enough to hurt anything. This is what they call a $6,000 bend. Boat came up here his first trip, missed that beam coming up, run into that rock over there with 2 loaded barges. Knocked a $6,000 hole in it. First trip he made. That was a sick man.
The pilot house isn't always the most important part of the boat. When it's time for a meal, attention is focused on the galley. If you're tired of TV dinners, you may want to consider signing on as a deckhand.
It's supposed to be a chicken breast casserole right now, with chicken breast. So I cooked the hen last night, let it cool off, and chopped it up this morning. It's supposed to be pretty good.
What else you got?
We got stewed squash and onion, Gilman gravy, fresh string beans. This will be mashed potatoes in a minute. Chicken dressing, rolls, cantaloupe and tomatoes, and I've made a couple blueberry pies. Tea, coffee, and milk.
Joel Grace, chief engineer, also does a lot of the cooking. Grace learned to cook the way people learn to do everything else on this river. He just did it.
He likes potatoes 3 times. Just a pinch of this, a pinch of that, and hope that it's seasoned all right.
Even when he's in the middle of mashing potatoes, Grace is an engineer, and his primary responsibility is to help make sure the engines are running properly. Trouble is only a horn blast away.
Most of the time, we have an alarm system back there that's pretty efficient, but I still have to walk back there for 30 minutes or so and take a look. Because anything can happen. So
It's not going perfect this trip. I mean, there are little things that you're watching now, right?
yeah, we have a fuel oil leak on the transfer pump and a little water leak on the port engine, but it's nothing serious. We'll take care of it when we get back to Tuscaloosa.
For the deckhands, the closest thing to an event on a routine trip on the river is going through a lock. There are 4 locks between Tuscaloosa and Mobile. Once past Oliver Lock, they are wide enough so the crew doesn't have to break up the tow to get through. There's still work for the deckhands in these bigger locks. Bruce LeGrone knows what needs to be done, and he's trying to teach it to Ben Mills, who is on his first trip on the towboat.
It's not a whole lot to it. You know, he really stops the boat when we get in. All we do is just tie it off and hold it there so he won't hit the gates.
There's danger for a deckhand with snapping cables or lines, or he could slip and get wedged between a barge and the wall of a lock.
Yeah, you know, those lines are made out of nylon. Some of them are anyway, and they stretch and they'll pop back on you. It's one of the main things.
Usually, it's the natural elements that cause the most trouble.
It's not so bad in the daytime. Night, the bugs eat you up out here a lot. Yeah, you can get her now. And it won't go anywhere. Yeah, put a 1/2 inch in it. That's good enough.
The deckhands end up doing everything the pilots and engineers don't. In the morning, they wash off the boat, trying to get rid of the thousands of bugs that are attracted to the lights at night. Since this is home for 6 men for 20 days, there's always something for them to do.
Yeah, you know, it passes away the time out here. You can only do so much sitting and eating. You know, you get fat and bored. You got to do something.
There's work to be done on the barges, too. The deckhands have to pump water out that may have seeped in.
I doubt if it'll pump, it ain't got much in it. You sorry, something.
Ben Mills's first job is to learn what not to do. It's too easy for a deckhand to get into trouble.
Yeah, you can easily fall off this barge. You're in big trouble then.
You gotta be careful about keeping your hands free of ropes and cables and
Yeah.
watch your step out here and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, never step in a tangled up rope or lines or anything. You don't know when they're gonna catch or break on you or anything like that.
Roger. We're standing by on Channel 8.
Dusk falls and the Rhett Parker pushes on in the darkness. Same river, same hazards, less light. The pilot carefully works his way along the river by tapping the shore with huge searchlights. But unless you know the river anyway, the lights just attract the bugs.
Well, a faint silhouette to my left, a fainter still to the right, and even the searchlight's long white spear can't find the buoys tonight.
There are other tools for the pilot to use day and night. A radar that can see the river without light, and a radio to keep up with the traffic and ease the loneliness of the wheelhouse.
We can't pass in that bend, and we're just a half mile above it.
Well, all righty. We'll come down here. We'll get with him after a while. He's standing by on 80, just stay over on 816. We'll get with y'all down in a little bit, over.
There he comes. Whoa, baby doll. Good. Hey, look at the bugs coming.
We thank you much there, partner, for holding up for me.
Stay as near in the middle as you can. Keep your stern away from them rock banks over.
Roger, on the rock bank.
Midnight to 6 is the loneliest time on the towboat. Only 2 men are up. One of them is Robert Colwell. A good engineer is always taking a look at the engine room, even though a good engineer doesn't really have to look to know how the boat's running.
Well, after you ride a boat long enough and get used to the engines that are in that particular boat, each separate set of engines will have its own distinct sound that you can tell when it needs the fuel filters may need changing, it'll go to surging a little bit, or the governor needs a little adjusting to it. Just the small things that if you listen to and are aware of every day, and change the sound or change in pitch, it might have some clogged fuel filters, so the air filters maybe need changing out and stuff like that. One time we were going down the river and a voltage regulator on the generator cut off, and when that was the first time that had ever happened to me. I've had generators surge and about to drop the load and be able to go back there and switch the other generator on. I had started cooking breakfast and I had just put my flashlight down and poured up the coffee pot for the call to watch. And when it got dark, it was dark. It was no warning, no generator surge, no alarm, no nothing. Everything just went black. The river was running, and we were in a particularly bad stretch of river to where there's rock on both sides of the river, and if we'd have hit, it'd been all over it, because we were running probably about 10 miles an hour with the current.
There's no getting away from your work when you're on the river. Even for the 6 hours at a time you're off, the massive engines shake your sleep in your stateroom, and you feel the movement of the boat as it crawls along the river. It's natural to think of places you'd rather be.
It takes not really a different breed, but it takes somewhat of a special individual to just walk off and leave their family for 20 days to be able to turn around and get right back in the swing of things again. My wife does a good job at home raising the 2 kids. She's done an excellent job. I sure do hate to leave them. I have a good time. I try to spend as much time with them on my off time as I can to try to make up for the times that I'm not there. I try to pay a lot more attention to them while I am there, to show them that, you know, I've got to do what I've got to do, and just because I leave, it's no reflection on them, that I will eventually return. You know, I especially like to play with my kids. Tyler started playing t-ball this past year. He's a baseball fan all the way. I've probably never laughed so hard in my life as I've ever laughed watching those t-ball games. He did all right though. I was rather proud of him.
What's compelling about the river is not that it can be powerful and fierce. It's not that it can be tranquil and relaxing. What's so mystifying is that it can be all of these in just a few minutes, in the time it takes darkness to turn to dawn and then to day. Friday it happened as the Rhett Parker walked through Coffeyville Lock, 117 miles from Mobile.
I got you, Who's coming?
I'll tell you about this boat, James, that came up here in high water. Only had one pilot. So the pilot had been up so much when he turned into Warrior River. He said, "You don't need me now, Captain, just stay in the widest river." So got up here to Big Prairie Creek where the water was up high, and Big Prairie Creek is wider than the river. So he turned up Big Prairie Creek, went clean to Highway 69 to a bridge. Woke the pilot up out there blowing for that bridge. The pilot knew there wasn't no bridge to raise, till you get the Warrior Lock above it. He got up, looked out, and said, "Where you at, Captain?" He said, "I just stayed in the widest river, Captain. So I got a bridge here, but I can't get it over." He said, "Man, you 7 miles out of the river. Let's turn around and go back." Looked at that Big Prairie Creek.
Who's coming, Junior?
Nobody above Lock 4. That Bottle of Rose is locking down there, but I imagine he's going up to Tombigbee.
You get by that field pile, he's still ahead of us.
He's right around to being ahead of us. You probably see him before you get to Yellow Creek.
Maybe we can get him before we get to the lock.
Almost catching him.
All right.
You might get him backbone.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna get with him. He'll get with me in just a minute. Let me know what side to come by him on. And we'll slide on by him there, which is just a common courtesy. He doesn't have to let us by. There's no rules or regulations governing. He just gonna let us ride by and slide by him. That's third generation. My grandfather was a captain on the old dredge Guthrie, and Daddy's been here with Parker for about 20 years. I used to come and ride with my father on the Alice Parker back when we were 8 or 10 years old. Used to come ride once a summer for 1 week or 2 trips or whatever, me and my younger brother. And now that was very exciting. Had all my friends want to go, but it still gets exciting at times.
I'm gonna get over here and get her going down this west bank. Let's come on by on the 2. As soon as I get this last, pull it down and run out. I'll go ahead and pull it back. Over.
All right, we appreciate it, Joe. Everybody starts out as a deckhand, works their way up. Works their way through the engine room, then works their way into the wheelhouse if they're lucky. Luck has a lot to do with being in the right place at the right time.
All right, Bobby, we standing by, and we'll see you there in a little while for the galley bill.
All right, we appreciate it, Joe. Brent Park, WRA 9180. Like I say, it all boils down to pride. You know, everyone has pride in what they do out here, I believe. A majority of people, I know all your wheelhouse personnel and the engineers do. This is a great opportunity right here.
When you're on the river for 20 days, anything out of the ordinary is welcome. So Joel Grace is cooking steaks out of doors. Everybody makes his own life on the river. But after 2 careers, one in the Navy, one in the towboats, Grace is thinking about life after the river.
I really don't know what I'll do. I got 3.5 years left yet. I want to go home now. I'm tired.
I had a friend I worked with on Alice Parker. He said the best thing about getting off a towboat, he said he compares it to getting out of a jail. He said 2 great feelings in the world, getting out of jail and getting off a towboat. But everyone comes back.
Yeah, they call me a river rat. Motor mouth. I'm always talking. I told the boss man, Captain Tom, Tim Parker, I said, I may get run over. But it won't be because the other boats didn't know where I was, but I'm gonna let everybody know that I'm on the river. He said, yeah, I've been told that. I may have a collision this trip, but I've never had one yet. I've been up and down here many times.
What do you think about in the winter out here when it's about 20 degrees and ice on the barges and you got to come out here and go through a lock?
Guess I had to cross that trail when we get there.
At 8:30 Friday night, the Rhett Parker reaches Berry Electric Generating Plant 30 miles upriver from Mobile. The first leg of the journey is complete as 2 of the barges will be left at the plant. The deckhands fight through swarms of willow flies and direct the pilot to where the barges will be split off and tied up. Tonight, these men are 3 days into the river and 17 days from home. Some men come to the river and live a life that is like something you might read in a story. The river is their world, and they commit to memory its every bend and bank. Others come here and find a retreat where one day does not presume to be anything more or less than the day before or the day after. This place seems to respect a man enough to let him live the life of his own choosing. And the men who are the most content here return that respect as they pass through the waters and through the rivers.